How does the EU condition their freedom of movement within the European Union? It really depends on who you ask. So I'm Marco Gherbaudo, I'm a PhD researcher here at Bocconi University, and I study EU law and migration law. So if you're like me, I'm a EU citizen and a relatively young researcher. You can travel wherever you want.
What is the right to free movement?
And this seems obvious to us, but it did change with time, and this is thanks to the European Union, meaning they can move around the European Union without any condition. And I only had to carry with me an identity card, my laptop and a few clothes. That's all I needed.
How long is this right valid?
This is valid for the first 3 months of travel, and after you can stay in another member state which is not yours if you have a job or enough resources not to become a burden for the member state.
What about non-EU citizens?
If instead we talk about people not born in the European Union, the situation is a bit trickier. We usually distinguish between two situations. The first one is legal migration. The other area instead is asylum.
What is legal migration?
And we talk about legal migration when it comes to migration movements due to work, family reunification, research, or study. Well, in these cases, member states retain a great deal of discretion, especially when it comes to determining the number of people that can enter their territory. In these areas, the European Union has intervened in different ways, mostly by harmonizing minimum rules when it comes when and how to issue residence permits and the amount of rights and guarantees that people can enjoy when they are in the European Union.
What is asylum?
And the first thing to say is that asylum is no less legal than any other means of migration. Here the situation is even more complicated, especially after 2015, when there was a sudden inflow of people arriving mostly from Syria. The European Union failed to find a common solution to this common issue. This led member states to increase their discretion on these issues, mostly through externalization and securitization.
So what happened?
Securitization, it means that everything related to asylum becomes a very security-related topic. So inflows, they are labeled migration crisis, and migrants become threats. And this is coupled with these externalization practices through which national governments started to outsource migration management to countries that are often at the border with the European Union, hoping to stop people from entering the European Union. And the main problem is that these countries mostly have very dubious human rights track records.
What is the role of EU?
After years of failed reforms, the von der Leyen Commission finally decided to adopt a realpolitik approach and adopted the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. It's a global reform of the EU migration policies, and we just adopted the past month. It tackles migration mostly along the lines set by member states. So it agreed to the compromises set by different national governments, and mostly through detention at the border and confinement of people that try to reach the European Union.
Are there other ways to tackle migration?
These compromises are not the only way the European Union has used. We have a notable example, which is the migration flows from Ukraine after the beginning of the war in 2022. Well, back then it was introduced the Temporary Protection Scheme, which is a mechanism that implemented a form of solidarity not only between member states to face these huge amount of people that were seeking for protection, but also introduce some measures which are actually beneficial for people in need.
How is it possible to adopt this approach?
Through political will and legal flexibility.
Why is it important to vote?
Find political will. Well, in June we're going to have the European elections. It's important that when you want to vote, you check the agenda of the party you wish to vote for. Every agenda has a migration sector. You must remember that the European Parliament is a co-legislator, so every type of European Union bill tackling migration has to pass through it, so you can influence the final outcome.